What do you think of when you hear the phrase people with disabilities? What do you think the average person on the street thinks? Think about the cultural perceptions and what they are. The word itself, disability. I looked up the definition and found these: a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. A disadvantage or handicap, especially one imposed or recognized by law. ADA defines it as an individual who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, or has a record of such impairment, or is regarded as having such impairment. Here's one I found very interesting: a lack of adequate power, strength, or physical or mental ability, incapacity. A physical or mental handicap, especially one that prevents a person from living a full, normal life or from holding gainful employment. Or anything that disables or puts one at a disadvantage. I also looked up the synonyms, and this was even more interesting. These included disadvantage, restriction, detriment, disqualification, drawback, impairment, inability, incapacity, incompetency, inexperience, infirmity, injury, invalidity, lack, unfitness, and weakness. These are all scary words, and they all have a very strong message. So we're here at PADES. It's an employment and empowerment summit. So interestingly, I just looked up the word empowerment, and it was defined as the process of increasing the capacity of individuals or groups to make choices and to transform those choices into desired actions and outcomes. There was a guy named Andrew Marr. He lived in Great Britain. He's a person who had a stroke. And he said that he now feels more aware of people with disabilities than ever before. His reflections included the statement, "Now you see it, now you don't. Disability can be strange, it's everywhere, it's nowhere. Unavoidable or hidden. What you see and how you see it depends, like most things in life, on who you are, your personal experiences, and the people you know." He wasn't asking for pity or empty words, especially on how difficult things could be. Rather, he was asking that a dominant voice say that things should be and could be a lot better. He went on to say that caring is easy if it affects you. Be it for your own body or mind or that of someone close to you. It takes a little more work if it's someone you never met and perhaps never will. The cry of a stranger, and I love what he said here, is always going to be quieter than the whisper of someone you love. As a society, in the year 2013, we still see and experience sad incidences of bullying. treating people differently. Some studies suggest that as many as 60% of kids who live with physical or developmental disabilities are bullied. And this number includes chronic bullying. Imagine being called names and being aggressively excluded from social activities. One little boy, his name was Mitchell Wilson. He lived with muscular dystrophy. He committed suicide after a group of kids beat him up, beat him to the ground, smashed out some of his teeth, and stole his cell phone. He later suffocated himself. One other kid with a disability, shortly after this, wrote, "I know firsthand what it feels like to be bullied because you walk differently or move more slowly than other kids. Whenever this happened to me," he said, "whenever I felt sorry for myself or wondered why I was born with a disability, my father would always tell me, 'Everyone has a disability. You're fortunate in many ways because most people can see yours. It's even more difficult for people who suffer from things that you can't see.'" Now, I'm not standing up here to tell you a story that doesn't have a happy ending, or, more importantly, a promise of hope. My purpose is to raise awareness to these very important issues. This summit is about empowerment. It's about giving people authority over their own lives and giving them an opportunity to influence change. I guess the basic, simple question I had is, why do we need a forum like this? Why do we need an employment and empowerment summit? If as a society, people were treated the same and we didn't look at differences, wouldn't this be a much better world? So, the happy ending. Today, a short time ago, I met two new heroes. And I call them heroes because when you hear the story, you'll find that I'm right on the mark here. As I listened to the story, and I admitted this, I started to feel a great deal of pity and sorrow. But I asked Paul, "Is that what you're looking for?" And he said, "Absolutely not." So, without me standing up here and you having to listen to me, I think it's much more compelling to hear it from Paul. But before I introduce Paul, I wanted to introduce his wife, Shelley. Shelley is one of the strongest, and I've only known Shelley an hour and a half. I've never met a person like her. When I'm sure Paul will talk about the role Shelley played in his life, and I can tell you that I have never been impacted the way I was after listening to their story. But I thought it was important that you all hear what their story is and how we can relate this experience to what we're doing here. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce my new hero, Paul Miller.
My name is Paul Miller. I'm 55 years old. I founded a company called Paul Miller Trucking back in '78, and found my wife about the same time. We've been married for 35 years. It was a very, very good life. Trucking business is kind of competitive, but we were somewhat successful. And have 2 children, and we put a plan in. We sold the business to the children about a year ago to prevent, in the event that, heaven forbid, one of us would get sick or die. And it was all in God's planning. About a year and a month after we did that, Super Bowl Sunday of this year, I got very sick. Didn't really know what was going on. As a little note of caution, what added to my illness, I had a bad truck accident, excuse me, in 1978, I had a splenectomy. Had I had my spleen when this illness hit, I would have gotten sick, but I wouldn't be a quad amputee today. So if anybody in this room, or if you know anyone that is missing a spleen, they need to go to see their doctor. There's a Pneumovax 23, I think it is called, a vaccine that will replace in your system what your spleen does. Had I known that, it would have been bad, but it would have been as bad. So I was healthy for 20 so years after the accident. Super Bowl Sunday, it was flu season, and I kind of had a little bit of a flu symptoms for 3 days, not feeling quite on my A game. The following Monday morning, I woke up at 3 in the morning, very irritable. My wife had seen both her father and her stepfather pass away. When she got my clothes off and see what I looked like, I was modeling already as what you do as you're dying. So we quick rushed to the York emergency room. And I walked into the emergency room. They told her, had we been 30 minutes later, I would have passed away. The disease was Streptococcus pneumoniae. What it does, it starts out as pneumonia. It attacks your body. It puts blood clots first in your small capillaries. That's where my hands and feet were starved of blood. That caused them to need to be amputated later on. Every doctor in York Hospital, the infectious disease doctor, came out the second day and took her by the hand and said, "Mrs. Miller, your husband may not make it." He said, "I've never had anybody live that had this disease." They all kept telling her that. Well, I've been a Christ follower since I was 12 years old, and she just about the same. So I would love to have been there. I was in a coma. I did not know. They put me in a coma instantly to save the energy I had and to put the meds into me. So she said, "Well, we'll just pray for a miracle." There's a 5% survival rate that has this disease. I'm a miracle to even be here. So 3 days in York Hospital. The symptoms that this disease does is somewhat like burns. To the time she went out and signed insurance papers and came back into the room, I was eggplant purple from here down, just like one of your kids coloring in a coloring book. It started from the bottom and just went up. So 3 days after York Hospital, they sent me they airlifted me to Lehigh Valley, which is a burn hospital in this area. I was 6 weeks in a coma at Lehigh. Again, my dear wife, February 13th, they came to her and said, "We're definitely going to have to amputate the hands." Well, there was discussion, and it sounds morbid now that I'm alive and doing well. There was discussion in my family, would I want to live without hands? Because I'm a hands-on guy. Trucking business is driving trucks, passing down loads. And I respect that. They knew where I was going to go if I did pass away. They knew I'd wake up in heaven the next second. So it's not that big of a deal. So they decided to do the amputations. I think it was February 17th. They amputated my both legs. So now here I am. I didn't know this, but I'm a 55-year-old guy that works hard with his hands every day. They're missing. The feet are missing. So during the 6 weeks of hospital stay, again, everybody was praying really hard. You know, Facebook, I'm not a Facebook fan, but it does put the word out very, very quickly to get a lot of people praying and being concerned about what you're doing. So everybody was praying that when I come to, I will be prepared for what I'm faced with. And as God is my witness, I was. I remember coming to in WellSpan Surgical Rehabilitation, which is down behind Apple Hill, down near York. And it was just like, it wasn't a, oh my God moment, I'm missing legs, I'm missing hands. It was just a gradual awareness that they weren't there. And I never really got angry about it. We had rehab stepped up really quick. Within 3 weeks of me coming to out of the coma, within 3 weeks, rehab, through God's grace, they're excellent. Rehab and my determination, I was walking in prosthetic legs in 3 weeks. Like I say, I am very happy to be here. We needed some funding then for the group insurance we had. Did not cover prosthetics. I think they had like $5,000 coverage, which till it's all over, I'll be like the $250,000 man. So it's a far, you know, it wasn't, the insurance no way nearly met it. So people put us in contact with OVR, which I know they're going to stand out here. Great people stepped up, put some funding together for my hands. It's been progress ever since I came to. It's been progress. It's great. What I did in the business before, I did fuel mileage. We run about 80 to 90 trucks. I did fuel mileage. I did driver training. Did more or less whatever needed to be done. My son sort of ran the business for the last 4 or 5 years. I had a duffel bag packed. Within like 20 minutes after a phone call, 24/7, I'd be in the truck to go take an emergency load if someone got sick. I really enjoyed doing that. But here again, you look down and think, how am I going to do any of this again? But I am convinced occupational therapy, I didn't know what occupational therapy was until I made it to the rehab. The physical therapy does all the wheelchairs and the crutches and and it's like, it's where the romance is, it's fun. Occupational teaches you what to do. Their saying is, and it's a very good one, physical therapy will get you to your job, but without occupational therapy, you can't do anything once you're there. So, and it's truly true. So they taught me how to eat without any hands. So I'm doing that very well. I'm walking well. I'm back at my job. I'm not doing the full capacities of my job yet, but if you get creative and you put your mind to it, you can do just about everything you did before. It may sometimes take you a touch longer, and you may have to get a little creative. It's all, every day you're given a choice. When I woke up in the hospital, I had a choice. And there were people in that rehab hospital that lost a lot less than what I did, that were angry, didn't want to eat, didn't want to do their rehabilitation. I wanted to. I mean, I was on it. They learned to like me in there pretty quick. If they had extra sessions, they'd call me down. I'd do twice the therapy that I should have did, that was required. That's why I got to where I was in 3 weeks' time. But it's an attitude. Even people that don't have disability, it's an attitude. Every morning you have a choice. You can get up, be a half full cup kind of guy, go about your day, do the best you can do with the facilities God gave you, or you can be a half empty and pity yourself and woe is me and everything. It's not me. I'm doing this all by the grace of God, a wonderful, wonderful wife, good family and good support. And like I said, you can do anything you want, anything you put yourself to do. A little bit of a surreal how your life can change. I believe in living ready and being prepared for what goes around the next corner. We had planned on going on a cruise. I love cruises. The cruise industry's in trouble. You get good deals. So my wife was online. We had booked a cruise for April 1st, which was a day after Easter. I got sick February 5th or 4th. So we had Easter. It was great, the best Easter I ever had. We had Easter in the hospital that Easter Sunday. So I was sitting there in my bed after it was over, and I thought, you know, I was planning on leaving for a cruise April 1st, excited about it. Well, guess what I was excited about April 1st now? They were bringing my 2 prosthetic legs into me April 1st, and I was more excited about getting the legs than I was about going on the cruise earlier. I mean, life can take a sudden turn, ladies and gentlemen, really quick, but you can deal with it. I dealt with it. I'm not a macho man by no stretch of imagination. I've just made a choice that this is what God has dealt me in my life. I can definitely handle it. I'm going to handle it. I have handled it. It's all good. You know, people, you know, like, what can we do for you? You know, I feel sorry for you. You're a hero. I don't feel that I am. I'm just an ordinary guy that was dealt sort of a rough blow in life, but I've got a lot of life ahead of me yet. And I tried to inspire people and was very generous in the community and in the church before this sickness. But I know I will inspire a lot more people after this sickness than what I did before, just in events like this. I've gone to lots of churches and different meetings and VFWs and shared my testimony, and I really thoroughly enjoyed doing it. So even though you're disabled, I'm very disabled, but I'm doing probably 50% of what I've done before I got sick now already. I'm planning on hunting this year. I would love to go back to driving truck at some point in time. You got to go to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety has regulations and requirements. You need to go take a test when you lose limbs to make sure you can react quick enough to stop the truck. So I called down. They said I would be the first quad that ever showed up. Well, trust me, I'm gonna show up. I might not. I'm gonna show up. And I have realized with some of the disabilities I have that the truck driving may not happen. I will drive a car again. I know that. I know people that are in my condition doing that. Whether I can pass the test with Federal Motor Carrier Service in Glen Burnie, Maryland is another question. But it challenges me that I would be the first one to try. So if I fail, we'll fail gracefully. But to wrap up, like I said, it's a tragic event that happened to me, something I wouldn't wish on anybody to have it happen. But that being behind me, I can't deal with that. I'm not going to grow hands or feet back. I've got good prosthetics. I've got good prosthetic people I'm working with. I've got good therapy. I've got an excellent family. I've got God on my side. Why should I sit around? People have told me, just take the Social Security check and sit back. And do what? You need to be productive in your life. You need to have a purpose. And that's what I'm here for. You know, I will speak anywhere anybody wants me to. It's the most enjoyment I've had since getting well and coming out of the hospital. So thank you so much for your support of this wonderful organization and everything that's going on here. God bless.
What more can I say? A living example for all of us. Now, Paul woke up one morning and started life as someone with a disability. And you can see, I didn't know him before his disability, but I don't think it changed him too much. He's still the person he was, and he is certainly an inspiration to me, and I'm glad to have met you. Does anyone have any questions for Paul?
Right here. I just wondered what your pain level is like. Do you have a lot of pain, or what is that like?
I have no pain. I probably would have had pain after the amputations, but I was in the coma, so I was pretty much healed when I woke up. I have no pain. I mean, I'm on no medication. I'm as healthy as I was before it happened, just missing a couple parts, that's all.
Not even the phantom limb?
Never had that. No, I was on medication for a while for it. Never. I had some weird sensations up and down my stumps, like running a fingernails up and down your stumps, but that's all gone. I can walk pretty well. If I stand long, the weight of my body kind of drives my stumps into my leg sockets, and that gets a little uncomfortable, but no pain at all. Yes.
What is the splinter means? Excuse my ignorance, but I don't know about that sickness.
The spleen, the sickness that I got is Streptococcus pneumoniae. It starts with pneumonia and turns into the disease I've got. I had my spleen removed. Had it been there, it would have fought the infection, and I probably wouldn't have had any amputations. I would have maybe had pneumonia for a day or two, and that would have been about the extent of it.
I say thank you.
Yes.
And I applaud you for your strength and courage and happy face.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
How long did it take you to feel really comfortable with your new legs?
Now, you mean comfortable walking or comfortable just the way they looked?
No, I know you went through rehab before you got the ones that you have now, and you're probably using theirs or whatever. But what I'm saying is, you feel confident and comfortable now. Is that the way you walk? You feel like you're walking the best you'll ever walk with them?
No, these are temporary legs. It takes a year and a half for your stumps to get to the size they're going to be permanently. And then you should hold your weight pretty close too. 5 pounds either way can make your limbs gain volume. So these are temporary legs. I feel comfortable walking. I mean, I could walk out to Route 11 and back without any trouble. Irregular terrain will cause me a little problem. Even a handicap ramp, which is funny, I'm pretty much handicapped, but a handicap ramp with the angle, with having no ankles, they can be a little bit of a stretch. But the permanent legs I get are going to have some ankle movement. I'm not sure what we're going to get yet permanent, but there's some ankle movement there that will take care of that. But I'm comfortable walking amongst people. Like if we were all to leave here, go down the hallway, I'd be a little uneasy because of getting bumped into and getting knocked over. But I feel pretty comfortable. In areas like this, I feel very comfortable. Uneven terrain is a little bit rough.
How about your hands? You say that you can do just about anything, you could eat and stuff.
Yes.
Now, these are hard questions for me because I've been around it a long time, but I've never actually witnessed what I'm witnessing now. A person that had a disease and had to deal with everything, the hands and the legs at the same time. So I probably got a million questions that I want to ask. Can you feed yourself and stuff like that? Can you use silverware, or do you have special stuff or what?
I've got special silverware, and I can feed myself. I've only been like this for like 6 months.
Okay.
So 6 months from now, I'll answer your question. I'll be doing a lot more in 6 months. But feeding's going well. The bathroom is a bit of an issue. Yeah, we have trouble with that. But what I'm going to do, I'm looking forward to this. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to meet with a woman who was the first quad amputee in Pennsylvania 13 years ago. And in 13 years, she probably learned a lot. So I'm going to meet with her tomorrow afternoon, and I'm sure it'll be a lifelong relationship, I expect. And I'm going to get some coaching from her. I'm really looking forward to that.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
And I'm not ignorant. I felt I had some just, but you know, I just had them questions, and I don't like asking them because people ask me the hard questions too.
Right.
But it's an opportunity I couldn't miss. And thank God you're doing so well.
Yes.
And your attitude is, I see it all the time. I see it in myself. We're the 1% of 1%. We got to do it for the other people that can't do it. So God bless.
Yeah.
Do you get advice, counsel, tap into the experience of military veterans? People like Taylor Morris or Sergeant Mills, people that I know that unfortunately through Iraq and Afghanistan.
I haven't, I've seen the videos they have out. That inspired me enough right there. I've seen the videos. I haven't talked to them one-on-one. There are several people that we've come across online that have, you know, they're either bilateral or they're quads that I do want to contact. I'm a sportsman, so there's other people out that have things out there online that how they're hunting and they're shooting, and you know, I want to contact them to learn how they do it. Yes, but the war, it is sad, but this Middle Eastern war that we're in has really upped the technology of prosthetics. The myoelectric hand that I got 18 months ago, the features that it does weren't even available. So, you know, it's not a good thing, but that is good coming out of it. It really upped the technology and the research.
And also for your wife to be able to tap into
Yes.
wives of others who have gone through the same experiences with their husbands. I just think it's so important to be able to do that and have that research. Hopefully we'll continue to do that.
I will.
Thanks for being here.
I will. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm sorry.
We forgot to give an applause to the wife.
Yes, 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 yes. That the wife is the strong one. Yeah, I suffered the loss, and I've told when my friends finally came to the hospital, they thought, "What am I going to say?" They were crying. They stopped. Well, some of them sat there and cried the whole night, and I understand that. But they say, you know, I'm the hero. Well, I don't really think so, because I was in the coma when the decisions were made to amputate and when I was going to die and then going to live and back and forth. She took the ride. When I came out of the coma, it was progress with therapy, and I'm getting better and getting better and getting better. She had 6 weeks of hell before I woke up. So if there's a hero in this room, right there.
Being that it's evident you're the half full sort of guy with a glass, what recommendations would you give people who could, like us, who coach other people with sudden loss? How do you deal with that? Without, I mean, because you've dealt with it in a very positive manner, and when we face that, we just like don't know what to say.
Well, see, I'm on the other end of that. I've gone back into rehab, and I've told the rehab hospital, if you get people that are struggling with the loss of one limb or two limbs, call me. I'll be in there with bells on to talk to them. What I always told people is count your blessings. I mean, yeah, I've got some things to be unhappy about sitting here today, but I've got a lot to be happy about. You know, if whoever you're talking to, whatever loss they encountered, the loss could have always been worse. In my case, my kidneys shut down for quite some time. I was on dialysis for a while, and the doctors didn't know what else was wrong inside of me. It could have messed up my brain. It could have messed up all my organs. The only organ that was impacted at all was my kidneys. So I'm thankful that was the only one. Yeah, it was bad, but the organ in my body that rejuvenates itself the simplest is the one that was shut down. So I always tell people, and I did that even before I got sick, it could always be worse. Your disability could be worse. In my case, I should have passed away. I always have told everybody, just be thankful for what you do have, even though you are disabled in whatever manner you're disabled in, if that helps. Yeah.
Do you have any kids and that your kids, how do your kids cope with it?
Yeah, I've got a son that's 31, and I've got a daughter that's 27. Thank you. And the daughter, I think, coped with it better. The son I worked with from when he was this big in trucks, and we restored some cars together, and we hunted together. I think he struggled with it very bad. I was very concerned for him. When I woke up and realized what had happened to me, as soon as I could make the first phone call I made it to my CFO and said, which I'm a good friend with, I said, my son is Paul Miller Jr. I said, how is Junior doing? Because running your business is stressful enough with yet having to deal with what Dad's going through. During the early age stages, they were really whacked out. Now they're doing well. To tell you how good our kids were, we handed our total finances over to them. They got the checkbooks, they got everything. They ran our household until we came back home. So they're handling it well. I do wonder sometimes, I'm going to probably have a conversation with my son at some point in time. Throughout my house, and they told me this, when you're home a lot of times your legs are off. So I crawl through the house. Well, the first time he saw me crawl through the house, I had to wonder what he was thinking. Not that I was his hero, but a lot of times fathers are your son's heroes. And here's this guy that told you everything you know. And he's crawling with hands and knees. I am going to have that conversation because I don't want him to carry that in him and be, I don't know if you want to say embarrassed or be uncomfortable when he sees me do that. But they're coping pretty well. Yes, thank you. A
Teaching moment.
It could be, because he was the one that, and like I said, I commend him for it. He was the one that questioned the doctors and her, would Dad want to live without hands? Because he knew, looking at with what the information we had then, it's like he won't be able to do anything that he did before. But it will be a teaching moment. It probably is, yes. Yes.
You still his hero.
Yes.
One more question?
I just want to say, I'm sure you're still his hero. You're probably more a Superman now.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so we're going to close here, and I hope you all are newly inspired and walk out of here with a new sense of purpose and understanding, and help us create that culture we're looking for, where all people are valued and really are looked at as having purpose. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the evening, and for those of you who are leaving and driving, please be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.